James Burke is a British broadcaster, science historian, author, and television producer, who is known, among other things, for his documentary television series Connections, and for its more philosophically oriented companion series, The Day the Universe Changed, which is about the history of science and technology. The Washington Post called him one of the most intriguing minds in the Western world. Biography. James Burke was born in Derry, Northern Ireland, and was educated at Maidstone Grammar School and at Jesus College, Oxford, where he earned an M.A. degree in Middle English. Upon graduation he moved to Italy, where at the British School in Bologna he was lecturer in English and Director of Studies, 1961–63. He also lectured at the University of Urbino. Thereafter he was head of school at the English School in Rome, 1963–65. He was also involved in the creation of an English-Italian dictionary, and the publication of an art encyclopedia. Burke explained how he got into television to the U.S. magazine People in 1979. Television beckoned by chance one day on a Rome bus, spotting an ad for a reporter for the local bureau of Britain's Granada TV. He says, "I decided if the bus stopped at the next corner I would get off and apply for the job. It did. He did. And the next thing he knew, we went straight off to Sicily to do a series on the Mafia." In 1966 he moved to London and joined the Science and Features department at the BBC, for which he was co-host of several programs. He also worked as an instructor in English as a foreign language at the Regency Language School in Ramsgate. Burke established his reputation as a reporter on the BBC science series Tomorrow's World. He was BBC Television's science anchorman and chief reporter for the Project Apollo missions, as the main presenter of the BBC's coverage of the first moon landing in 1969. In collaboration with Mick Jackson, he produced the 10-part documentary series Connections, which was first broadcast on the BBC, and subsequently on PBS in the United States. Connections traced the historical relationships between invention and discovery. Each episode chronicled a particular path of technological development. Connections was the most watched PBS television series up to the time. It was followed by the 20-part Connections 2 and the 10-part Connections 3. Connections, an alternative view of change, was broadcast in more than 50 countries, and the companion book Connections, an alternative history of technology, sold well. In 1985 Burke, with Richard Reich and John Lynch, produced the 10-part series The Day the Universe Changed, which concentrated on the philosophical aspects of scientific change in Western culture. Burke has also been a regular writer for Scientific American and Time, and a consultant to the SETI project. Burke has received the gold and the silver medals of the Royal Television Society. In 1998 he was made an honorary Fellow of the Society for Technical Communication. Burke has also contributed to podcasts, such as in 2008 when he appeared on Hardcore History with Dan Carlin, and newspaper articles including 2 series for the Moga on Connection by Jesse Horn, one focusing on the nature of morality, the other on the future of our youth. Knowledge Web. James Burke is the leading figure in the development of the knowledge web, to be the digital realization of his books and television programs, and which will allow the user to travel through history and create his or her own connections. Eventually, the project may even feature immersive virtual reality historical recreations of people, places, and events. Predictions. In an article for the Radio Times in 1970, 1973, Burke predicted the widespread use of computers for business decisions, the creation of metadata banks of personal information, and changes in human behavior, such as greater willingness to reveal personal information to strangers. In an interview on the PM program on BBC Radio 4 on 30 August 2013, Burke discussed his predictions of a post-scarcity economy driven by advances in nanofactories, which he believes may be viable by the year 2043. Burke posed at least one of his predictions within a question. In Connections, he pointed out that the increase in possible connections over time causes the process of innovation to not only continue, but also to accelerate. So, what happens when this rate of innovation, or more importantly, change itself, becomes too much for the average person to handle? And what does this mean for individual power, liberty, and privacy? In the conclusion of Connections, Burke said that computing and communications might be controlled by computer science elite. Later, in contrast to this, he suggested in the conclusion of The Day the Universe Changed that a worldwide revolution in communications and computer technology would allow people to instantaneously exchange ideas and opinions. Television credits. Television series and documentaries by James Burke. Tomorrow's World. The End of the Beginning, about the end of the Project Apollo space program. The Burke Special. The Inventing of America, NBC-BBC co-production for the U.S. Bicentennial, co-hosted by Burke and Raymond Burr. Scenario: The Oil Game, Crisis Game examining OPEC. Scenario: The Peace Game, Crisis Game examining NATO. Connections: The Men Who Walked on the Moon, a 10th anniversary review of the flight of Apollo 11. The Other Side of the Moon, a critical examination of the Apollo space program. The Real Thing, about human perception. The Neuron Suite, about the human brain. McGillivray Freeman's Speed, as the narrator. The Day the Universe Changed. After the Warming, about the greenhouse effect. Masters of Illusion, about Renaissance painting. Connections 2. Connections 3. Stump the Scientist, featured an audience of children who questioned a panel of scientists in the hope of presenting a question they could not answer. Reconnections. Books. Tomorrow's World I, with Raymond Baxter, ISBN 978-0563-101628. Tomorrow's World 2, with Raymond Baxter, ISBN 978-0563-123620. Connections. Alternative History of Technology, ISBN 978-0333-24827. Also published in North America as Connections, ISBN 0-316-11681-5 and PBK. ISBN 0-316-11685-8. The Day the Universe Changed, ISBN 0-563-20192-4. Chances, ISBN 978-185227-393-4. The Act-Maker's Gift, with Robert Ornstein and illustrated by Ted Dewan, ISBN 978-087477-856-4. The Pinball Effect, How Renaissance Water Gardens Made the Carburetor Possible and Other Journeys Through Knowledge, ISBN 978-0316-116107. Circles, 50 Round Trips Through History, Technology, Science, Culture, Era, ISBN 978-7432-49768. The Knowledge Web, ISBN 978-068485935-4. Twin Tracks, ISBN 978-07432-2619-6. American Connections, The Founding Fathers.